Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Before we begin the video, I just wanted to say thank you all so much for 100 subscribers. Oh, this is kind of outdated. Hold on. Thank you so much for over 200 subscribers. We reached it a little while ago, but this is the first time I'm addressing it. This channel is growing as quickly as a small niche YouTube channel can grow, and I'm grateful for all those that view my content. YouTube should be sending me that whale carcass play button by now. Today's topic was suggested by... I'm so sorry, I don't think I can pronounce that, but thank you for your request. Without further ado, let us begin our study of Sikhism and the Sikh Empire. Before we jump into the Sikh Empire, I'm going to explain a little bit about the religion of Sikhism, and I should also use this time to talk about the Punjab. When I refer to the Punjab, it's a region of land that comprises of eastern Pakistan and northwestern India. Sikhism is a monotheistic religion that is based on equality, love, and virtue, and rose around the 15th century from the teachings of the faith's first guru, Guru Nanak. Sikhism preaches that there is only one God, due to an event that happened to Guru Nanak while he was bathing. He went missing for 3 days, and upon returning he claimed that there was no Hindu and there was no Muslim. This one God in Sikhism is genderless and formless. It has no description and is all of reality. Sikhs believe that no description or image could represent the God. The symbol Ik Onkar is used instead. Nanak believed that this God could be interpreted in many ways, and that fighting for which representation was correct was pointless because they are all the same being. There is no heaven or hell in Sikhism. Earth is seen as somewhat of a purgatory where all souls end up after they die. This cycle is called dukkha. The act of breaking free from this cycle of death and rebirth and merging again with the one God, referred to by many as Waheguru, is called mukti, or liberation. Of course, this task is not so easy because of the interception of the 5 thieves, those being lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego/pride. It is the duty of all Sikhs to actively combat these thieves while simultaneously develop the fundamental qualities known as the 5 virtues. Those are truth, contentment, compassion, humility, and love. There are some ways that people can get back on the right path and not fall to the temptations of the 5 thieves. These are called Nam Japo, contemplating the nature and will of God through meditation and chanting, usually the word Waheguru. Kirat Karo, working diligently, making an honest living and not exploiting others. Van Chako, sharing with others or helping those that are in need. With some basics out of the way, let's dive deeper into the gurus. Of course, we already briefly talked about the first guru, Guru Nanak. In the later years of his life, he settled in Kartarpur and went on spiritual journeys. Allegedly, after his death, his body was never found. Instead, a heap of flowers sat underneath the sheet that was thought to be covering him. He chose Guru Angad to be his successor. Guru Angad worked with Guru Nanak for many years, and he is credited with a formalization of the Gurmukhi script, which is the standard for the Punjabi language in India. He chose Guru Amar to become the 3rd guru. Amar played a crucial role in introducing certain festivals and rituals that, since their inception, have been an integral part in Sikhism. He appointed Guru Ramdas to take his place as the 4th guru. Ramdas is credited with the founding of the holy city of Amritsar, purchasing the land from locals for 700 rupees. Successor to Ramdas is his youngest son, Guru Arjan. Arjan was the first guru to be tortured and executed by the order of the 4th Mughal emperor, Jahangir, for not converting to Islam. As a result of this, the Sikhs took up arms and became more resistant to the Mughal oppression. He also wrote a Sikh scripture called the Adi Granth. This scripture composed of hymns written from various people, which are set to a form of ancient classical music originating from northern India. Up next in the line of gurus is Guru Hargobind. He became guru at the young age of 11 after the death of his father, Guru Arjan. Hargobind is, to put it simply, he's very tough. He survived smallpox, survived a poisoning attempt from his uncle, and another event in which someone threw a cobra at him. He was a martial artist and encouraged people to be physically fit and be ready for a fight. He also had a sizable army before his death. Guru number 7 is Guru Harai, a grandson of Guru Hargobind. He largely avoided any military conflict and maintained the army his grandfather amassed. When his eldest son was taken hostage by Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, his son changed a verse in the Adi Granth to appease him, an act that earned him the excommunication from his father. Instead, he nominated his youngest son, Krishan, to be guru, and he did at the young age of 5 after the death of Harai. Krishan was the 8th guru. Sadly, his reign didn't last, as he perished from smallpox just before his 8th birthday. His reign lasted only 2.5 years, and his last words were, Baba Bakale. It was thought to identify his grand uncle, Tegh Bahadur, as his successor. Tegh Bahadur was the 9th guru. His birth name was Tiagamal. He was given the name Tegh Bahadur, which means mighty of the sword, by his father, Guru Hargobind, after showing extraordinary courage and valor against the Mughals in battle. Tegh Bahadur was executed by orders of Aurangzeb. His son, Gobind Rai, became the 10th guru at the age of 9. In 1699, Sikh culture entered a new chapter. Gobind Rai requested his fellow Sikhs to gather together during the spring harvest around a tent. The guru asked for a sacrifice, and a brave volunteer stepped forward into the tent. A few moments later, he stepped out, alone, with a bloody sword in hand. This happened 4 more times until the guru came out with all 5 volunteers, all dressed in the same saffron robes. Gobind Rai referred to these 5 as the Panj Pyare, and thus, the Khalsa warrior community was born. Also referred to as the 5 beloved ones. They drank amrit, which was sugar mixed with water, from the same bowl, signifying that these 5 people from different castes and families were now equally unified into the same family. Their initiation was complete upon the desertion of their original surname, and adopting the name Singh, which means lion, as their new surname. Women adopted the surname of Kaur, which means princess. After being baptized, Guru Gobind Rai asked to be initiated into their Khalsa community. He drank from the bowl, and from that moment forward, Guru Gobind Rai became Guru Gobind Singh. Gobind Singh initiated the 5 kakars for all Khalsa members to follow. It acted as a dress code of sorts, each item having its own unique meaning. Kesh is uncut hair. The practice of not cutting or trimming hair on the head or face shows a sign of respect to God for his gift of naturally growing hair. The hair is to be kept clean and tangle-free, and is maintained with the second K, the kanga. It is a small wooden comb that is kept in the hair. The use of kanga on kesh symbolizes the acceptance of God's gift of hair, and maintaining it with grace, and the idea that their life should reflect their hair, tidy and organized. Sikhs keep their hair and kanga covered with a turban. The kara is an iron bracelet that represents God as never-ending. It also symbolizes a permanent bond with the rest of the Khalsa warrior community. All Khalsa Sikhs wore a lower body undergarment called the kachera, which showed a control over sexual desires, as Khalsa Sikhs do not partake in adultery or fornication. The last K is the kirpan, which is a small dagger or knife that is usually made of steel or iron. The purpose of the kirpan is to fight against tyrants and oppressors, and to defend human rights, oppressed peoples, and righteousness. On top of the 5 Ks, the Khalsa warriors are also expected to follow a few mandatory restrictions. These are as follows: no use of tobacco, alcohol or drugs of any type, not to cohabit with a person other than one's spouse, not to disturb the natural growth of hair on the body, and to not eat kutha meat. Kutha meat is meat that comes from the religious sacrifice or slow bleeding of an animal. The opposite is jakta meat, which is meat that comes from an animal that was killed instantaneously, to mitigate the amount of suffering the animal endures. A number of battles took place in between the forming of the Khalsa until 1707, when Emperor Aurangzeb died. His successor invited Gobind Singh to meet with him in person. He accepted, and on the way there, his army was ambushed and Gobind Singh was fatally stabbed. However, he fought back and killed his assailant. Guru Gobind Singh died a few days later. Before his death, he ordered that the Adi Granth be his successor, ending the line of human gurus. Upon the bestowing of guruship to the Adi Granth, its name changed to Guru Granth Sahib, and it is the 11th and current guru. It is composed predominantly by 6 gurus, the first 5 and Guru Tegh Bahadur. Contributing authors aren't just Sikh, as the passages contain teachings from Hindus and Muslims as well. The writings are a collection of poems and songs, and its vision is a society that is free from prejudice and oppression, while emphasizing the virtues of love, freedom, and justice. After Gobind Singh's death, one of his generals, Banda Singh Bahadur, became the commander-in-chief for the Khalsa. He was able to completely abolish the landowner reign of the Punjab and gave control back to the peasants. In 1716, Banda Singh Bahadur was captured and executed for not converting to Islam. Quite brutally, I might add, and they extensively tortured him before murdering him. After this, Mughal reign resumed in the Punjab, and many Sikhs were slaughtered. The Mughal Empire may have seized control, but the empire as a whole was experiencing a decline due to the death of Emperor Bahadur Shah I and another force to the east, the Afsharid Empire. The Sikh population were formed into a confederation of 12 sovereign states called Misls, each with its own ruler. The combined forces of these states was called the Dal Khalsa. The Dal Khalsa were able to hold their own, but they still lacked a legitimate ruler. At this point, the Mughal Empire was in turmoil. The capital at Delhi was ransacked by the Afsharid dynasty. The emperor at the time, Shah Alam II, had to look for outside protection. The Maratha Empire battled the Afghanistan Afsharid dynasty and recaptured Delhi in 1784. They also subjugated the Mughal Empire. After 1785, the Maratha Empire gained control of a number of Sikh states in the Punjab. These states, called the Sutlej states, fell under the suzerainty of the empire. This means that the larger political entity, the Maratha Empire, controls the foreign policy and relations of the submissive state, also called the tributary state, which were the Sikh states. These states still had a degree of self-rule, but it was very limited. After the death of notable Sikh leader Jassa Singh Ramagarhia, several Sikh states broke out into a Cold War, while the remaining ones struggled to maintain power of the Dal Khalsa. In the midst of the chaos, one formidable ruler rose out from the crowd, Rani Sarakur. She quelled the forces of the Bangis, ending the conflict between the Misls. The formal beginning of the Sikh Empire began in 1801 with the unification of the Misls. They were all overlooked by warlord Ranjit Singh, who had already established himself as a potent warrior at a young age. He was crowned the first Maharaja of the empire. During his reign, the Sikhs were able to push back the invading forces of the Durrani Empire, who were hoping to capture the Punjab and subdue the Sikhs. In the Second Anglo-Maratha War, the British East India Company defeated the Maratha Empire and gained control of the Sutlej states. Ranjit Singh attempted to gain control of these states, but in the end, he forfeited his claim, and both parties agreed to some territorial disputes, but conflict with the British continued. The Sikh Empire didn't only consist of Sikhs. The estimated population of Sikhs in the army was only 722,000 out of 12 million, with Muslims making the bulk of the army, followed by Hindus. This meant that the Sikh Empire was mostly made up of people that were devoted to the Islamic and Hindu faiths. During Ranjit Singh's reign, the empire became prosperous and was void of any internal conflicts and political disagreements within its ranks. Sikh control expanded over the entire Punjab region and even branched out a bit further up north. Ranjit Singh's health took a turn for the worse in the 1830s. Historical records attribute this to alcoholism. He was found dead on June 27, 1839, having apparently died in his sleep. Fun fact, 4 of his wives and several of his mistresses committed sati, which is a sacrificial practice that involves the widow sitting on top of her dead husband's funeral pyre as an act of total devotion and loyalty. After Ranjit Singh's death, his eldest son, Garak Singh, became the second Maharaja. He was regarded as being simple-minded and lacking his father's diplomacy skills. His reign only lasted a few months before he was assassinated. Taking his place as the third ruler was his son, now Nihal Singh. He was seen as a worthy successor, but his reign was also short-lived, lasting just over a year before a massive stone block fell on him and a few of his companions. He survived the initial incident, but he died a few hours later. His mother, Chand Kaur, took place as a regent for the child of now Nihal Singh, so no one can take the throne for themselves. The child ended up being stillborn, and she was murdered by her servants in 1842. Fourth Maharaj was Sher Singh. His reign lasted almost 3 years before he himself was also assassinated. Leadership fell upon young Duleep Singh at just the age of 5, with his mother ruling on his behalf. A war broke out between the Sikhs and the British during the ending month of 1845, and lasted until March of the following year. It ended with the partial subjugation of the Sikh Empire. The Second Anglo-Sikh War broke out soon after the conclusion of the First. This ended with another British victory and the annexation of the Sikh Empire. Duleep Singh, who was only 10 at the time, was deposed and sent off to London. This was the end of the short-lived Sikh Empire. Many Sikhs fought for the British Raj, the next company of British rule on the Indian subcontinent. They were noted for being brave and loyal fighters. And that is the end of Sikhism and the Sikh Empire. Hopefully you found this content useful and informative. Be sure to leave a like and comment as well. We will meet again in the next video. Till then, safe travels.